Hello, and welcome to Edward's Journal. My name is Edward Roberts. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I wanted to talk about something today that honestly came across originally to me as a joke on the television show The Simpsons. There's a character named Principal Seymour Skinner. Now, this is not a recent episode. I saw this episode recently, but this is a very old episode. It's Seymour Skinner in the parking lot of his elementary school with Superintendent Chalmers, another character on the show if you're not familiar with The Simpsons. And the superintendent is walking around the parking lot sort of showing off his new car. And Skinner is heard to remark that he one day hopes to own a car himself, but is currently bogged down paying back his mother for the food he ate as a child, sort of retroactive payments. Now, obviously a joke, I had a laugh, but it got me thinking about, well, my own mother. I was raised by a single mom, very much below the poverty line, and I started thinking about, do we owe our parents anything for raising us? And that must have been so tough. Being a parent myself now, not a single parent, but a father of two boys, it's a lot of work. And even just being a single mom with one child, I can't imagine how hard that must have been on her. But do I owe her anything for that? Do we owe our parents for having us, for raising us? You think about that beautiful gift of life and what a gift that is, but we didn't actually ask for that gift. That was given to us freely. And the raising of a child is sort of something that, as again, a parent myself, I just come to assume is expected of me to put in the work and to be there for them and be a good dad. We look back on our lives, children growing into adults, and maybe wonder, do we owe anything for these gifts, these blessings, for this support, both spiritual and financial? And honestly, the short answer is no. I certainly don't think that we owe our parents anything. But if you'll stick around with me for a bit, I'd love to chat some more about this topic. I certainly felt, it was never explicitly said in my household, but I felt like I owed my mom something for raising me and going through a lot of hard times and providing for me. Now, when I say I lived below the poverty line, I don't ever recall being hungry, and I was certainly never homeless. But that was the baseline. Anything above that, luxuries like even things like birthday parties and birthday presents, or just going on little vacations or being involved in sports and things like that. I certainly didn't have any of that. That was very closed off to me. I recall one very specific birthday. I think I was 6, and it was in the morning, happy birthday, and that evening went to McDonald's for dinner, and that was literally it. No party, no presents, and I knew not to expect much. I knew we were well below the poverty line. I had friends that were in better situations than me, so when I would go to their houses and see things, I knew that they were doing better than we were. But that's where we grew up and where I came from. But did my mom do her best? I'm sure she did, from her perspective at the time. But looking back on it, do I actually owe her for that? And again, I say no. But I spent a lot of my adult life thinking I did. Now, I don't like throwing shade here, but just to spill a little bit of tea, my mom is not the best person, to the point that I have had to cut her out of my life. Not even so much for the sake of myself, but for my family. And that was tough. It was definitely tough, but it was definitely for the best. And looking back on our lives together, especially when I reached adulthood, I came to realize I only really kept her in my life because I felt like I owed her that relationship. And looking back, that's wrong. That's not, you don't owe anybody a relationship for anything. I really feel that relationships are earned. I'm going to say this, I'm sure, a million times throughout the course of these Edward's Journal videos, but I always relate back to the end of one of my favorite Beatles songs. It ends with, "The love you take is equal to the love you make." And I truly believe that in life, that what you put into something is what you can fully expect to get out of it. And that has to be the give and take of any relationship. Relationships are built on things like trust and mutual respect, and they certainly aren't built on debts. And looking back on my life, again, using my mother as the example, the parent in my life, do I feel like I owed her anything? Yes, I did. And that's why I kept allowing her to be a negative influence in my life, and why I kept that relationship up. And it just got to a point personally, everybody's situation is different. This was just a little taste of what my situation was. When I had a wife and children, it got to the point where it was like, I can't keep this person in my life for her sake if it's negatively affecting my household and my family. So for the sake of them, I had to sort of tell her, you know, I'm sorry, but I just can't have a relationship with you anymore. And it wasn't a big hurtful blowout and a screaming match. It was very polite, just, I'm sorry, you know, you're like this, we're like this, we just can't have you around. But again, that took longer than it should have, I think, because of that feeling of that debt and that feeling of owing somebody something just for giving birth to you and raising you. As my kids get older, I certainly hope we have a beautiful relationship that grows. They come off the launch pad and, you know, become successful adults in their lives. I hope that we're still good friends and that we talk all the time and we have a close relationship. My wife has a beautiful relationship with her parents. Obviously, my in-laws now, they're the most wonderful people. I'm glad they live close to us. We all have a beautiful relationship. And again, it shows that juxtaposition of like the household I grew up in, the family that I had and how things were versus that other side of the coin. And certainly no resentment. It's nice to know that not everybody had it as hard as I did. It was so bad at times I look back and it honestly feels like that life was another person that those things happened to. So my sympathies and sadnesses go out to that young boy, almost as if it's not even me I'm thinking about or remembering. It's strange. We'll get into these things at another time, I'm sure. But just to stick to the topic at hand, do we owe our parents anything for having us? If any of you out there feel that way, I'm sure I'm not the only one. It's probably a very common thought or feeling for children to have as they grow into adulthood and sort of live their own separate life with that small tether still attached to their home with their parents. And again, that feeling of debt, whether you have manifested that into your own psyche and your own self, or whether your parents outright made you feel that way or said to you, you know, you owe us, like Principal Skinner's mother, Agnes, making him pay her back retroactively for the food he ate as a child. Again, a hilarious gag. I had a good laugh, but it sort of got my mind and the wheels spinning and thinking about that topic. And just something I wanted to share with you today, a little bit about my own upbringing and how I had to sort of break free from that and not feel that way. I'm sure there's other people out there that are feeling like that and going through that. And I just want you to know you're not alone. I had those thoughts too. And it's probably natural for a lot of people. Again, whether that's just manifested by you in your own mind or your own heart or soul, or if your parents literally said that or just made you feel that way. I hope you had fun hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for joining me. Know that you are very appreciated. And hey, if you haven't done so already, please consider like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos each and every week. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.